So last time around we made some changes to the booksadmin.view component so that this component will do what it's supposed to now that we're caching components using the keep alive functionality that's part of View. And of course that means we're also probably going to have to change this one, users, to have that not used before mount but instead activated and deactivated. And we're going to have to do user edit and anything that we don't want cached. And this is going to get irritating really quickly. Now, if you go back to the View documentation, and there's a link to this in the course resources for this lecture, and you look under built-in components at Keep Alive, you'll see that it actually has some functionality that might just be appropriate for our purposes. And it's include and exclude. And apparently all I have to do, if I want to include only certain components, I can do what you see right here. Add the include attribute, and then a comma-separated list of all the components I want to include. And that sounds perfect for my purposes. The one thing they don't tell you is that in order for this to work, you actually have to add something right into, say, the booksadmin.view. Here, if I want to exclude this, under export default, I have to add this entry. It's just called name. And in this case, the name for booksadmin is probably booksadmin. Okay? So there's one that I can actually add. Now, if I wanted to include this one, that's the name I would want to use. But the one I really want to have cached is this one, books.view. So let's go down here to this one, and let's add a name to this. Name books. Okay, so that name now exists. That means I can go over to app.view, and in the section where I have the keep alive, all I have to do is add an attribute. Include equals books. Okay? So now we're going to want to make sure that this name here and this name here actually match what's in our Redder file. So let's make sure that's accurate. So let's go to Redder and find books. And we did in fact call it books. So that's perfect. So that means I can go back to bookadmin.view and change this right back to, say, just mounted. And I can get rid of the deactivated one because that'll throw an error if I leave it there. So I made some changes to the router. So I'm going to stop this and start it again with npm run serve. And everything should now work exactly the way I want it to. Let's make sure. So it's all compiled. I'll switch back to my web browser and go to the tab with the application and go to the home page and reload this just to make sure everything is current. And now I should be able to go to books and filter by fantasy and click on the stand. And of course, it still says loading. So let's go back and look at the book component. So back to the book component. We'll probably have to change that one back to mounted as well. So mounted, and get rid of deactivated. And now when I go back to my web browser, there's the stand. And if I go back to books, there's the stand. And if I go to admin and list the users, perfect. Let's look at Saul or Trevor. That shows me. And let's go back and now let's look at Smith John. And that works exactly as expected. And I think that is a lot cleaner and a lot simpler. This way we're only caching or keeping alive the specific components that we want to keep alive. All right? And you might want to also go back to all of your components and just add the name component. And I'll do that between this lecture and the next. There's no point in you watching me do that, but it'll be in the source code that I post up for this lecture.